All right, what's up, family? So today we diving into one of the most contentious and revealing confirmation hearings in recent memory, okay? And I know this happened 3 days ago, but I wanted to wait to have a conversation. So a hearing that put the spotlight on national security, whistleblowers, and the intelligence community. At the heart of the debate is the legacy of Edward Snowden and a question of whether his actions were brave or treacherous. So the hearing opened up with a simple question: do you think Edward Snowden is brave? Almost immediately, the discussion turned to the fact that Snowden broke the law. Many on the panel argued that because he broke the law, he must be considered a traitor. One panelist repeatedly stated, quote unquote, Edwin Snowden broke the law, framing his actions as criminal regardless of the subsequent revelations about government overreach, right? However, the nominee on the stand, whose confirmation is being hotly debated, used her platform to challenge the conventional narrative. Rather than merely accepting the label of traitor, she pointed out that many Americans support Snowden for exposing what she called egregious, illegal, and unconstitutional programs within the government. In her view, his disclosures, although done unlawfully, sparked much needed reforms in intelligent practices. So, during her testimony, as we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard, the nominee called out the hypocrisy of the committee members, particularly those embedded in the intelligence community. And she recalled moments from the hearing where she was pressured to label Snowden as a traitor and to renounce any support for whistleblowers. She argued that many in the committee are more aligned with entrenched interests, the intel bros, as she put it, than with the American people. And this uncompromising stance led her to reject the demand to bend to the committee's narrative. At one point, she warned viewers throughout the hearing there would be plenty of what she called lies and smears, and we guys will see that clip in a minute, designed to challenge her loyalty. Critics accused her of aligning herself with various foreign interests, listed names like Trump, Putin, Assad, and even Modi, and she shot back at this tactic by emphasizing the absurdity of being expected to serve multiple masters at once. Instead, she declared her loyalty to God, her own conscience, and the U.S. Constitution. Check this out.
Now, before I close, I want to warn the American people who are watching at home. You may hear lies and smears in this hearing that'll challenge my loyalty to and my love for our country. Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet. I have no love for Assad or Gaddafi or any dictator. I just hate Al-Qaeda. I hate that we have leaders who cozy up to Islamist extremists, minimizing them to so-called rebels. As Jake Sullivan said to Hillary Clinton, quote, Al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria. Well, Syria is now controlled by an Al-Qaeda offshoot, HTS, led by an Islamist jihadist who danced in the streets on 9/11 and who was responsible for the killing of many American service members. Democrat senators in the past resorted to anti-Christian bigotry against some of President Trump's judicial nominees like Amy Coney Barrett and Brian Boucher. I condemn those actions as a Democrat in Congress at the time, as religious bigotry must be thoroughly condemned by all of us, no matter the religion. Unfortunately, there are some Democrat senators who still don't understand the principle of freedom of religion and Article 6 of the Constitution. Quote, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. Unfortunately, they're once again using the religious bigotry card, but this time trying to foment religious bigotry against Hindus and Hinduism. If anyone is sincerely interested in knowing more about my own personal spiritual path of Hinduism, I welcome you to go to my account on X, where I'll share more on this topic.
All right. So I'm gonna simplify it, right? I'm gonna give you all the easy understand version of it to break it down. So basically, the question about Snowden. The hearing began with a straightforward question. Do you still think Edward Snowden is brave? But instead of focusing on his actions, many panel members insisted that because he broke the law, he should be considered a traitor. And Tulsi Gabbard's response was she disagreed with this black and white view. And she argued that while Snowden did break the law, he also exposed the government programs that were illegal and unconstitutional. She suggested that his actions led to important reforms, meaning he wasn't simply a criminal, he was a whistleblower who revealed the wrongdoing. So now she's just calling out the hypocrisy because Tulsi Gabbard accused the committee members, especially those tied to intelligence agencies, of being hypocrites. And she felt they were more loyal to their own interests than the public. And they pressured her to, condemn and denounce Snowden and other whistleblowers, but she refused. And defending herself, as critics tried to paint her as being aligned with foreign leaders like Putin and Assad, attempting to question her loyalty, she dismissed these attacks as ridiculous and stated that she is loyal to only God, her conscience, and the U.S. Constitution. So the bigger picture of all this is it highlights not just a debate, but it's a debate over whistleblowers, government surveillance, and political loyalty. And the nominee stands her ground, in this case, Tulsi Gabbard, against pressure from powerful officials, arguing that exposing government wrongdoing shouldn't automatically make someone a traitor, right? So, in Edward Snowden, he basically leaked classified information in government surveillance programs. That was because that's what made him a controversial figure in all of this. And now we go to the broader issue, right? Intelligent community reform. Much of the hearing quickly shifted into a discussion about the core function of intelligent work and the sweeping reforms that Snowden's leaks initiated. And Tulsi Gabbard argued that the Intelligence Committee has long operated under principles that are fundamentally at odds with transparency. And by revealing government surveillance practices that many Americans find unacceptable, Snowden inadvertently became a catalyst for change. And she pointed out that the majority of Americans oppose excessive government surveillance and agree that CIA's covert actions have often led to the unintended, sometimes disastrous consequences. And according to Tulsi Gabbard, the reforms following Snowden's revelations have been essential. And in her words, Snowden's actions have forced the government to confront its overreach and an issue that affects national security and civil liberties alike. Right? So I want to go to the next clip with Senator Mark Warner. Check this out.
Until you are nominated by the president to be the DNI, you consistently praise the actions of Edward Snowden. Some who, I believe, jeopardized the security of our nation, and then, in an effort to flaunt that, fled to Russia. You even called Edward Snowden, and I quote here, a brave whistleblower. Every member of this committee supports the rights of legal whistleblowers. But Edward Snowden isn't a whistleblower. And in this case, I'm a lot closer to the chairman's words, where he said Snowden is, quote, an egotistical, serial liar and traitor who, quote, deserves to rot in jail for the rest of his life. Ms. Gabbard, a simple yes or no question. Do you still think Edward Snowden is brave?
Mr. Vice Chairman, Edward Snowden broke the law. I do not agree with or support with all of the information and intelligence that he released, nor the way in which he did it. There would have been opportunities for him to come to you on this committee or seek out the IG to release that information. The fact is, he also, even as he broke the law, released information that exposed egregious, illegal, and unconstitutional programs that are happening within our government that led to serious reforms that Congress undertook.
Chairman, we got 5 minutes. So I take your answer and these are your quotes. Brave, please join my bipartisan legislation calling for charges to be dropped against him. Do you disagree that legislation was not appropriate? Do you believe he is brave or not?
Yeah,
Back those words?
once again, Senator, Edward Snowden broke the law.
Ms.
He
Gabbard,
also
I'm not
released
talking- we
information
agree that Edward Snowden
that
broke the
exposed
law.
the United
I'm
States
asking you a question
government's
whether
illegal
your
programs.
legislation and your words are still your beliefs. Yes or no, please.
I'm making myself very clear. Edward
Ma'am.
Snowden broke the law. He released information about the United
All right,
States
ma'am,
government's
I've got other issues
illegal
to raise.
activities.
Ma'am,
If I may just finish my thoughts, Senator. In this role that I've been nominated for, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will be responsible for protecting our nation's secrets. And I have
Ma'am,
4 immediate
ask
steps
for
that I
additional
would
time,
take to
Chairman.
prevent another Snowden-like leak.
ma'am, I would simply ask you again. I don't think you're going to answer. I agree with Tom Cotton. He's a traitor.
Well, basically, they're trying to bully her into saying what they want her to say. And she's saying he broke the law, but he also made a magnificent point. Now, I just want to add a little bit more context to have a conversation with you guys, and I want to know you guys' thoughts down in the comments, right? So, Edward Snowden, right, basically was a government worker who leaked secret documents in 2013, revealing that the U.S. government was spying on millions of people, including ordinary Americans. He showed that agencies like the NSA, which is basically a national security agency, and their main purpose is basically an agency responsible for collecting and analyzing information to protect national security. Its main job is to monitor communications such as phone calls, emails, and online activity to detect personal threats like terrorism, cyber attacks, and so forth. So, Edward Snowden, government workers, he exposed what he revealed and basically Americans being spied on. And he showed that they were collecting phone calls, emails, and online activities without people knowing. And his leak sparked a huge debate about privacy, government surveillance, and security. And some people see him as a hero for exposing the government overreach, while others see him as a traitor for breaking the law and leaking classified information. In this case, as we know, that Senator Mark Warner is trying to bully Tulsi Gabbard, the nominee, to be nominated and eventually take position as head of the National Security Intelligence Agency or the National Security Agency. He wants to bully her into saying that Edward Snowden is a traitor to basically get the liking of him. And she's not pandering to him because she's a very smart woman. She stands on her ground. And yes, she's agreed that he broke the law and how he went about it. But the bigger picture is, at the end of the day, there's a way of going about things. And she would take the 4 steps that she would mention if he would let her speak on how she would prevent this from happening again, future leaks from government employees, right? So his leaks revealed about mass surveillance on Americans, that the National Security Intelligence was collecting phone records, emails, and internet activity of millions of Americans, even if they weren't suspected of any crimes. And global spying. The U.S. was spying on foreign governments, including allies like Germany, and even listening to world leaders' phone calls. And then tech companies were involved. Big companies like Google, Facebook, and Microsoft were secretly helping the government collect user data. And then 4, the government lied about it. U.S. officials had previously denied this level of surveillance, but Snowden's documents showed they were misleading the public and Congress. And that's why Trump's main goal is restoring the trust of the American people. If American people and the people don't trust the government, at the end of the day, it will never work in unison to come together for more unity, to get more things done in a thriving economy, let alone a thriving nation and a country in its entirety. So his leaks led to public outrage, challenges, and changes to surveillance laws. And that's what Tulsi Gabbard is trying to do, change the surveillance laws, while also being honest with the American people, though government spying still continues in different forms, right? Obviously, because we have to protect our own ground, the homeland. So it brings a lot of questions. And most of the hearing was around this and surrounded around this. The entire confirmation process has become a proxy battle between 2 visions for American national security. One on one side, who favor the old guard, supports of secretive intelligent operations and minimal public oversight. On the other are reform advocates who believe that transparency, like Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump, and accountability are paramount. And even if that means re-examining long-standing practices in this debate, Snowden's legacy is a lightning rod. While his critics label him a traitor, many see him as a whistleblower who exposed government overreach. And the nominee's testimony, in this case, Tulsi Gabbard testimony, has highlighted that the issue isn't simply about one individual. It's about the need for sweeping reforms and how intelligence is gathered and used. But I want you guys to see Senator Michael Bennet, because he was another one that tried to bully Tulsi Gabbard into basically changing her stance, and that didn't go successfully. Check it out.
Do you believe, as the chairman of this committee believes, as the vast majority of members of our intelligence agencies believe, that Edward Snowden was a traitor to the United States of America?
Senator, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will work with you to make sure that there is not another Snowden-like leak.
Media. It's not a moment to propagate theories, conspiracy theories, or attacks on journalism in the United States. This is when you need to answer the questions of the people whose votes you're asking for to be confirmed as the chief intelligence officer of this nation. As my colleague said, this is not about you. It's about the people that serve the intelligence agencies of the United States. Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America? That is not a hard question to answer when the stakes are this high.
Senator, as someone who has served in
yes or no, is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States?
Yeah, man, it comes a fine line when you talk to, like, we grown. Here comes a fine line where I'm just be like, who are you talking to? See, stuff like that, look, it's one line, it's one stance when you being professional, but when you trying to tell somebody it's yes or no and telling them how to answer your question, but then you want to basically say this is for the, hold up, run it back real quick. This dude lost.
To the United States of, is Edward serve the intelligence about the people that serve the intelligence agencies of the United States?
It's about people who serve the intelligence agency of the United States. And he wants basically her to basically to call Edward Snowden a traitor. And that's supposed to have the best interests of service workers to the intelligence agency of the United States when they have been overreaching them. They have been crossing the line and basically spying on millions of Americans and lying about it. So this is why the Democrats lost Tulsi Gabbard in the first place. They lost a good one. And that's why they probably won't see they probably won't see a successful election until they revamp themselves and basically change the mindset and realize that the American people is the one that votes you in. And at the end of the day, they will continue to have these old guard practices or these old ways. And they're so used to them that they feel like they know what's best for the American people when they really lost. They're out of touch. And it shows. That's why Tulsi Gabbard turned to a Republican. But however, you know, as the hearing draws to a close, the key question remains. And I ask you guys, will the nominee, in this case, Tulsi Gabbard, be confirmed as the next director of national intelligence? Comment down below. Her stance on Snowden, her refusal to conform to the committee's expectations, and her clear call for reform have all positioned her as a champion of the populist movement and one that prioritizes the rights and voices of everyday Americans over entrenched bureaucratic interests. Because he's so focused on validating government workers and basically keeping the trust within government workers that you won't expose the truth. That's why she want him. That's why he wants to bully her into changing her stance and calling Edward Snowden a traitor, when really these individuals, in this case, Senator Michael Bennet, who's so passionate about making sure she panders to their view of it and calling him a traitor, even if it jeopardizes the trust of the American people, that he doesn't even care about the best interests of the American people. So this what makes not only Edward Snowden heroic, but also Tulsi Gabbard, because it shows who's really for the people, and who's really about their ways on how they want to do things and control millions of millions of Americans, and even lying for their own best interests. So you rather her sit there and say Edward Snowden is a traitor to make you feel good, while you continue to jeopardize the trust of millions of Americans, let alone fatten your pockets by having your best interest by staying in this clique. And in this case, the establishment that's crooked as can be. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you believe that Edward Snowden's actions were brave or treacherous? What do you think about the nominees, in this case, Tulsi Gabbard's stance, who is the nominee, during the hearing? Drop your comments below and let's discuss. And if you enjoyed this deep dive of one of the most contentious moments in recent national security history, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.